Hello and welcome back to the Mindset Project podcast. My name is Lewis Conde and my aim is to give you the tools to develop and improve your mindset. By drawing on my own experiences as a competitive swimmer, as well as the opinions and experiences of other incredible individuals, I hope to expose you to an alternative way of thinking. And in doing so, I hope that inspires some sort of personal growth. I believe that through mindset development, we can strive physically, mentally and emotionally. I hope you're all doing well, staying positive and staying healthy. So let's get on to it. Hello and welcome back to another episode on the Mindset Project podcast. I hope you're all doing well, and I just want to say apologies for the lack of episodes the past few weeks or month. I think I said in the last episode I've kind of been just really focusing on training because obviously last weekend I had my first meet since February 2019, so however long that is, like 15 months or whatever. So that's kind of been where my focus has been the last last few weeks. So I've kind of decided to put reprioritize my focus, I guess, towards that, if that makes sense. So the podcast has kind of took like a back seat, and at the end of the day, if I'm not really putting energy into podcasting, then it's not really going to be top quality. And at the end of the day, I really want to make sure it's really good quality. I don't really want to be posting or creating half-arsed content, because that's not really what I'm all about. So in this episode, I'm just going to explain why I've came to the decision of stopping podcasting for the time being. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to completely give it up. I think it's definitely going to be something that I'm going to shelve but revisit at a later date. But at the minute, I think I really want to focus on my training and kind of give everything to that, if that makes sense. Like this week, for example, because I was racing last weekend, I've kind of took this week off. I'm thinking about taking next week off as well, just to kind of, recover and recuperate, but at the same time reflect on the past 6 months of training, and I guess in the past year and a half as a whole, because obviously I've kind of had training taken away from me, and when I got back into training it was kind of on and off. So I've not really had a consistent block of training apart from this from spring till last weekend. And I didn't swim horrific at the weekend. I swam pretty well, and my kind of goal going into the meet was, I didn't know if this was going to be the only meet that there was going to be for the rest of the year. So initially my thought process was just swim as fast as you can, give absolutely everything. If you die, you die. It's fine, because you've got this opportunity and you don't know if you're going to get that opportunity again in this year. So that was kind of like my race plan / strategy for the weekend. But after my first swim on Friday, I kind of got a little bit better feel for the water and kind of began to strategize a little bit better. I had the 100 breaststroke on Friday, and my breaststroke is something that I have been focusing on since March. I've always kind of struggled with breaststroke just because, if you remember in one of my episodes, I talked about having performance anxiety, and the performance anxiety actually came about from breaststroke. Now, I think it's because I always used to be good at breaststroke, and I think it was my number one as well, but I didn't really like training breaststroke just because it is a very technical stroke to do, and you have to get everything perfect, or at least very good, because if you start doing something you get your technique wrong, if you do that over and over, then what's going to happen is you're going to start remembering that bad technique, which isn't the best, because it's harder to get that good technique back. So I actually think that is really hard to actually train breaststroke. So I think that's kind of where my performance anxiety came from, because I kind of put this sort of pressure on myself because it was my number one stroke. So I was thinking I need to do this well, because in swimming it's kind of there's an expectation for you to do well on your number one. Now, I don't know if that's true. Like there's swimmers listening that could like clarify that, but that's kind of like where I've kind of felt in terms of my breaststroke. So, and when I had my performance anxiety, one of the things that happened was my head position was really, really awful. Like I'd get tight up my shoulders, my back, that sort of thing. So I've kind of like since being at university, I've kind of avoided doing breaststroke because I guess I'm kind of like scared of going back into that sort of poor technique, performance anxiety sort of mode, because like obviously that's not something that you really want to be doing, especially if you're training it as well, and you go into that sort of bad technique sort of mindset. And I guess that's kind of my way of trying to like avoid that, is just not training it at all. So I've kind of, the last 6 months, 5-6 months, whatever, how long we've been allowed back in the pool, I've kind of made the decision to actually focus on it. Like I didn't really, back in March, I didn't really have anything to work towards. So I was like, this is a great opportunity to actually fix something I actually want to be able to fix, because I've always wanted to fix my breaststroke, but I guess there's like just a part of me that's kind of holding me back because I don't really want to be going down that sort of negative road, which I think is very easy to fall into. So since March, I've been like doing a lot of head position work, a lot of pull work, something that's kind of my like weakness, or something that that can turn into bad technique pretty quickly, basically. And you know, I'm actually quite happy with the progress I've made with working on my head position, and I kind of felt that on Friday as well. Obviously, one thing to take away from all 3 races at the weekend was I wasn't particularly strong or fast. Like I have done a lot of aerobic work, but I've not had a very big block of power or speed sessions. So I knew straight away that wasn't going to be, that was something that was going to be missing in my race. So I kind of prepared for that, and wasn't too disappointed about my times, because I knew that I hadn't done enough training for me to get those times, if that makes sense. But I was just outside my entry time, which, considering I've not done a lot of power work or speed, that actually was pretty good given everything that we've been through the past year or whatever. And then on the Sunday I had 100 fly. Now this was something that I was very, very, very nervous for. Like I can't remember the last time I was very nervous for a race, but I think it was only because I've been training in a public session. Sometimes in a public session you can't really do fly. Like it's really hard to do fly. You can only really do it if it's like a really quiet session, or if you get like a good lifeguard, because I'm pretty sure some of the public swimming rules in the UK is that you can't do fly. So I've barely swam any fly since March. So that was kind of something that I was really nervous about, because obviously going into a race of 100 fly, not having done any training whatsoever, I was kind of worried about it. Obviously I've done some sort of like technical work for fly, like drills and kick and pull. So I kind of had some sort of base to work with. And this was kind of when I started thinking about strategy. So like my aim was just to kind of focus on like a strong kick as opposed to a fast kick, and just make sure that my turns and everything that I know I'm good at was good. And at the end of the day, like I only was just outside my entry time, which I mean I can't really complain about. Like I was so nervous for it, and there was absolutely nothing to be worried about. Like if I swam horribly, then it's not really my fault. We've been in a pandemic for a year and a half. And then I finished the weekend with 100 free. Now this was something that I was kind of feeling more confident with, because obviously in a public session you're more able to do front crawl. So like I said earlier, I've done like a lot of aerobic work. I've been able to do more threshold work. Like freestyle is just an easier stroke to train in public sessions as well. So I wasn't feeling too nervous or anything about my freestyle. The only thing I was kind of nervous about was we were racing in a 50 meter pool as opposed to a 25, which was what I've been training in. So like that was the only thing I was kind of really nervous about. But overall, the weekend wasn't too bad, and it's kind of like bittersweet because obviously, whenever I get into the pool, I always want to bring back a fast time. Like I want a PB. Now I know there's probably people listening to this like thinking it's not always about PBs. It's not about getting fast. But for me, I want to be able to get faster each time I get into the pool. I want to get better. I want to get faster. And in order to do that, a PB is part of that process. And obviously the whole point of racing is enjoying it as well. And like I did enjoy every moment of the weekend. And it kind of was just a meet to kind of get us back into racing. But for me, getting a PB would have been like, I would have been like so over the moon, because it was kind of shown that I've actually went out my way to train throughout the past year and a half, which I know I have. So obviously, like I wasn't thinking of getting a PB, but getting a PB, that's what getting a PB would have meant to me, if that makes sense. And doing this episode has made me realise how passionate I am about swimming. Obviously in March we kind of had training cancelled, and my first reaction was trying to find something that would kind of replace that. Which at that time I think I just went hiking, I went walking, I did home workouts, as a lot of people probably did, and I've done so many different things to try and kind of not necessarily replace swimming, but kind of fill in that void, if that makes sense. And obviously trying to fill that void is very, very hard, and it's almost like the best way I can kind of describe it and think of it is when you're doing a jigsaw, you think you've got the right piece because it fits into the place that you're wanting to get, but obviously it isn't the right piece because it doesn't match up with the picture, if that makes sense. And that's kind of how doing all these sort of activities is kind of, I've felt the past year in response to trying to fill that void of not having swimming there. So last year, like I said, I did hiking and did walking. Also did a bit of open water swimming, paddleboarding. I also started researching my family tree, which that was probably one of the things I have done, which did take a lot of time because obviously you do need to research things and that sort of thing. Even starting this podcast was kind of something I wanted to do on the side, just in case I didn't have training. So it's kind of this podcast was kind of actually a backup to kind of keep me going and ticking over and just keeping me engaged with and keeping a routine sort of thing. But one thing I have realised is that nothing that I've done in the past year has kind of given me the same sense of fulfillment that swimming does. Now, I don't actually know how to describe this, but when I'm in the water, I just feel very aligned, and I feel very calm and focused. Whereas when I'm out the water, my mind goes 100 miles per hour, 24/7. And I think a lot of people will know as well, who I've trained with in the past or train with just now. When I'm in the water, I'm very quiet, I'm focused, I'm 100% laser focused on what I'm doing. I'm relentless as well. If I'm, so focused on a session or focused on, doing 100 meters or whatever, if you're in my way, God help you, you better get out of the way. That's how focused I am. And obviously, people who train with me will understand, where I'm coming from. And I don't understand why I'm like that, because I'm not like that out of the pool. So it's almost like swimming changes me into this ruthless, relentless person. Whereas when I get out of the water, I'm a completely different person. So I think swimming for me is just something that kind of makes me feel very fulfilled, and there's not really a word to describe how passionate you can be about something, because it is a feeling. And as well, a lot of people probably think that I'm completely obsessed with swimming, but I think if you want something so badly, if you have a strong desire to do something, then you have to be obsessed with it. If you look at Richard Branson, for example, do you actually think that he started Virgin on the side, or do you think he was completely obsessed with building up this company to become one of like the richest people on the planet. You know, the same with like Steve Jobs. All these like really big business people, they had to be obsessed with their idea to get it to be a successful business. And it doesn't even have to be sport. It doesn't have to be business. It could be a goal, for example. Like if you're wanting to lose weight, maybe not be like a completely obsessed with like numbers and that sort of thing, but you need to have like a relentless desire or drive to achieve that goal, if that makes sense. And you know, I think when people say that oh, you're obsessed with it, I think those people are probably, I'm going to say small-minded, because they don't seem to like the fact that you have something that you're so passionate and so driven for achieving or doing. And I think because I've done all these sort of different activities and like hobbies and trying different things, I've kind of like split up my time and my focus up. So I'm not really getting the most out of all the different things, if that makes sense. So like say for example, I'm doing like 5 different things. So that's 20% of my time for each. Whereas if I'm putting 100% into one thing, then I'm going to get 100% out of it. So I think I'm going to like take a back seat from the podcast, not completely give it up. Like I've completely loved doing the podcast, and obviously I've had 3 guests on so far, and I've had like so much fun trying to like speak with them, learn some stuff from them, and just get to know like incredible people. And it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to doing in the future. And I think as well, like sometimes you have to do something to realise your love for something else. You can kind of like apply this to a relationship sort of thing. Like if you break up with someone, you might actually go dating someone else and then realise that you actually love the person that you've just broken up with. Obviously like that's completely random. I don't know why I thought of that. But you can kind of get the idea that in order for me to do this podcast, I've kind of realised how much I love doing sport, doing swimming, and you know, just getting better and improving my performance. But just focus on training in the pool, training in the gym, getting faster, getting stronger. Because one thing I didn't actually realise this until the weekend, but I am like so passionate about this. Like I just want to swim as fast as I can and become like a better athlete, and I feel like I can't do that when I've got different things going on in the background. So I feel like if I shelve them, then I can actually fully give 100% into what I actually want. Like, you know, I've only been swimming since 2013, which is 8 years. 7 if you want to take last year out of the equation, because obviously we didn't really do a lot of anything last year. And they always say like you need 10 years for you to get your overnight success. So like I'm still miles away from reaching my peak in swimming. So like I'm not retiring anytime soon. I want to get to the Olympics. I want to get to the Commonwealth Games, and obviously the Commonwealth Games is next year. And you know, there's absolutely nothing stopping me from trying to qualify, trying to get into them. You know, don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't do something, especially if someone says, you know, you can't do it because it's never been done before. Like, how can they tell you you can't do it if it's never been done before? You can just be the first person that has done it. Because something hasn't been done before, no one can say if it can be done or it can't be done, because no one's been able to do it. So it's kind of like an unknown. So don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't do something. If you want to do something, just go out and get it done. Like, life is too fucking short for anyone listening to be thinking of doing something and not doing it. Just do it if you want to do it. If you have something that you're so passionate about doing, just do it. It doesn't matter what happens. Take risks. The biggest risk in life is actually not taking any risks. And the Olympics start today as well. Like, I'm recording on Friday. And actually, really, I'm not going to say I hate watching the Olympics, because obviously it is good. Like, I'm obsessed with sports, but one thing I don't like about watching the Olympics is it just reminds me that I'm not there. Like, obviously, I think anyone that does sport at a high level or competes at a high level, if you don't want to get to the Olympics, then what are you actually doing? Like, you know what I mean? And obviously not everyone is like that, but that's like kind of the way I see things. But it's just really annoying when you just see the best people racing, doing their events, and then it kind of like reminds you that you're not there, and that's like one of your like goals. So yeah, that's kind of like this episode. I'm gonna like just take a break from this. Sounds like Rachel from Friends. We were on a break. But in all seriousness, I just want to like focus on training, and obviously the Commonwealth Games are next year, and I want to give absolutely everything to qualify. Some people listening to this, or people who know me, might think, well, it's completely impossible for you to do that. You're like nowhere fast enough. But you never know unless you try. And one thing I did learn between September and December when we did have training was obviously we had less sessions, but I felt like I was more focused. And when we went back in September, I was doing like 130s, holding 130s, and then on Christmas Eve I was holding like 110s, and that's in a very short space of time. So being able to do that just shows that if you're like focused, you can actually do anything really. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I kind of like opened up a little bit as well. That's one thing I kind of do struggle with, because I'd rather get out there and get shit done as opposed to just talk about things and mull over it. Because a lot of the like reasons why I'm in the situation of things that have happened in the past. Now I don't really like bringing up the past. Like, I'm more of a person that focuses on the present to kind of create my own future. So I don't really like talking about things. I'd rather, get out there, get it done, make the changes now, do the work now, and get the results. Like, I'm just like super passionate about swimming. There's just nothing that I've found that, I'm so driven for. There's nothing that makes me so more fulfilled. And to me, it's more than just getting times. It's the actual personal growth that swimming gives you, because I guess it's kind of like any other sport. Like, I wake up every day and going to training because I want to get better, not just physically, but mentally as well, and spiritually as well. Because any sort of high level sport makes you more determined. It makes you motivated. And anyone that does high level sport can kind of relate to this in some way. It's just something that I love doing, and I don't think there's going to be any sort of thing that can replace that. I think I will know when the time is right to retire, which is never going to happen anytime soon. So, yeah, that was kind of like I thought it was going to be quick, but it just happened to be longer than I thought it was. So I guess the kind of like take home message from this is obviously I've kind of opened up a little bit and kind of like shared where my like thought processes are and where I am mentally just now. And one thing to take away is just, if there is anything that you want to do or you're passionate about something, just go and do it. The only person that's stopping you from doing it is you. Obviously you're going to like face challenges and barriers and whatnot, but like that's life. Like, you're not going to achieve something without having faced some sort of challenge, even if it's something small, something minuscule, or something huge. You will face a challenge or a barrier, and I guess the part of like the process to achieve that goal is navigating your way through that challenge. And that's one of the things I love about swimming, is because there's challenges every day in training, and that's kind of one of the things I like about swimming, is the personal growth, because you're constantly being challenged, you're constantly growing. Like, I'm surprised I've not welled up yet, just because like it's something that like I'm so passionate about. And I think a lot of the, like, in terms of this pandemic, a lot of us have kind of had sort of existential questioning of like life and what really matters to us. And and this is going to sound absolutely cringy, and I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but swimming is my passion. Like, I love it, and I've not found anything else that I love more than swimming. So yeah, I'm gonna like take a break from podcasting, just for now, and just kind of like focus on training and see where that goes. Because I feel like the past 6 months or whatever, I've not really been 100% focused on training, and that's kind of like really annoyed me. And mentally, I've not been great, and I think that's one of the reasons why, because I've not been given 100%. And I really don't like giving 60%, 70%, even 99%. I'd rather give 100% in everything I do. So yeah, this is kind of like it's almost like a season finale, I guess you could call it. I think I'll still post on the Instagram account. I might do some like quick Q&As now and again, some videos as well, because that doesn't really take a lot of time. But you know, it's just because when you record an episode, you have to kind of like do a little bit of research, record, edit, that sort of thing, and it does take quite a lot of time. So yep, that's the episode. I don't know really what I'm going to call it yet. But and I hope you really enjoyed this episode. Completely honest, stripped back, no sort of backing track, backing music, just me speaking, being honest, being open, just sharing where like I am mentally, where my thoughts are at, that sort of thing, and just kind of sharing the path going forward, I guess you could call it. And yeah, I hope you all stay fit, stay positive, stay grateful, and I shall see you on the next one, whenever that is.